Well, it's my great pleasure to introduce someone I saw a little while back and very impressive in a movie called The Harbinger. So here we are. I'm in Australia and Gabby Beans is over in New York. Is that correct? Or are you
I'm
in
in
LA at the
LA
moment?
actually. I'm in LA currently.
Wow. Hello. Nice to meet you.
Lovely to meet you too, Shane.
Thank you. What's happening over in LA at the moment? Are you, with all the writers' strike and everything, it seems to be very, very busy and complicated. What's your take on it?
Well, as a SAG member and as an equity member, I am in full solidarity with the writers.
Yep.
Their requests are valid, understandable,
Yep.
and really important not only for WGA members, but for everyone in the entertainment industry. A lot of the sort of questions around their demands are questions that we all share across sort of disciplines within the entertainment industry, specifically when it comes to streaming residuals and
Sure.
AI. So I am really, really appreciative of the writers taking this stand, and I'll probably be picketing with them when I return to New York.
Good. No, I don't know whether to shake my head or nod because it's been going on for some time now, and I know it's happened before, but it just doesn't seem right. So I stand in solidarity as well. Let's hope there's some change.
Absolutely.
Now, I wasn't overly familiar with your work, Gabby, until I saw The Harbinger. But can you tell me a little bit about your history, how you became an actor? Are you more of a stage performer rather than a film actor?
Well, my career up until this point has mostly been stage work, but I have been very specifically endeavoring to do more film and TV work going forward. And just a little bit about me, I always wanted to be an actor uh,
Good.
from from when I was a really little kid. I just really just loved showing off, being in the center of attention, and the best way to monetize that was by being a professional performer. But in all seriousness, I had this desire to perform, but no one in my sort of immediate family are artists or
Mm,
performers, and they had a lot of apprehensions about that. So when I went to
okay.
university, I actually studied neuroscience. I was pre-med. I worked in a lab, and that
Wow.
was really, I did a lot of plays in college, but my main focus was in the lab science sort of pre-med direction. And
Okay.
then in my final year of university, I kind of had a come to Jesus moment. And I was like, you know what? I have to give acting a try or else I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. And I was very lucky to get into the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, where I did my uh, master's in classical acting. And pretty much since then, I've been auditioning, working a lot in off Broadway in New York, and then eventually
Wow.
Broadway, and now more TV and film.
Well, you were part of one episode, at least, as far as I'm aware of a show that I watched religiously, Ray
Uh-huh.
Donovan.
Yeah, that's
That was a
right.
great show.
Yeah, that was a really cool job. In fact, it's pretty funny. Like, on that job, I got the privilege of working very briefly with Susan Sarandon,
Oh,
and it
cool.
was very funny because at that time I was working at this ping pong bar slash club called Spin, which
Yep.
she used to own. So it was funny to like be with her in the morning and then go to work at her at her former business that afternoon, that evening. So it was very like, wow, this is actor's life, you know.
Yeah. Well, I heard that. I heard she had some ping pong bars or whatever they were at the time. So very
Mhm.
cool. Yeah, I love that show. So congratulations being part of that.
Thank
Uh,
you.
The Harbinger is very creepy. Are you a fan of horror movies? I'm sure you probably get asked this a lot because it's an effective horror movie. It's very creepy, and your role pretty much takes center stage. Yeah,
Mm.
before I ask you how you got the role and so forth, are you a fan of that genre?
Oh yeah, no, I hesitate to say that I'm a huge horror fan because now having interfaced with the beautiful horror community, I realize that I'm still, I still have a lot to see and a lot to watch. But I really love what's going on in horror right now. A lot of what's called the elevated horror
Yeah.
kind of stuff, from Ari Aster and Robert Eggers
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, so I love that stuff.
So Monique is your character. Firstly, bad dreams. She has a few. Have you ever had them that you've woken up and thought were real?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I dream really, really vividly, and so that was one of the things that really affected me when I got the script.
Right.
That sort of uh very displacing kind of feeling of not knowing whether you're in reality or you're in a dream. I identified with that, and I don't have as much trouble with it as my character does, thank goodness. But
That's good.
I've certainly had that experience. When you like have a dream where you had an argument with someone, or
Right.
someone did something, that you didn't agree with in a dream, and then you wake up and you have this residual sort of bad feeling towards them, and then halfway through the day you're like, oh wait, that was a dream, they didn't really do that. I've experienced that a couple times, unfortunately.
I've always said for years I should write them down, and I know people do, but I've never done that because I reckon I'd come up with a good script or a good story, a good novel.
Oh, it's so funny you should say that, because that's something that some of my castmates in the project I just wrapped were talking about, dream interpretation and stuff like that. So
Okay.
now that I have a bit more time, I want to get into recording my dreams on voice note as soon as I wake up, and then trying to analyze them in some sort of Jungian fashion, learn more about myself.
That's a really good idea.
Mhm.
Well done.
There you go.
Now, Monique is a strong character. How did you approach playing the role? I mean, there's a sense of being afraid, but also taking control with the entity that's around her. Did you play her in a certain way, or did Andy, your director, just direct you?
Um, well, I would say, so I guess we'll get into how I came to the project, but
Yeah.
I joined on, I might have been one of the last people cast. So first of all, Andy's script is so amazing. I mean,
It's tight.
when I read it, I went to sleep scared. And you read a lot of scripts as an actor, and when something affects you in a way that lasts after you've put the PDF down, you know what I mean?
That's
Um,
interesting. Yeah.
you're interacting with something really powerful. So in terms of Monique, so much of who she is was just right there on the page, and I felt really empowered to tell her story by simply really investing in the cues that Andy put into the script about who she is and how she approaches her life. And
Yeah.
I really just, because I came on so late, I really just tried to bring myself to the part. And I really, feel like I'm very similar to Monique in a lot of ways.
Okay.
And so it was really a fun exploration to just sort of do the thing. And Andy is a really, really, really incredible director with actors. I mean, he is has a lot of stage experience. He has a lot of
Okay.
specific experience with straight stage actors, and we just spoke the same language. So he knew exactly what to say to sort of get me to a place that I needed to be in order to tell the story.
Oh, that's really good to hear because you have a certain responsibility when you make a scary movie, I think.
Mhm.
And both Andy and you and your fellow cast managed to do that on a low budget, I guess. But
Mhm.
was it an easy shoot? I mean, COVID is involved in the story. Was it set? I mean, did you film it during COVID or after it all
So we
happened?
filmed this pre-vaccine, so it was very early, sort of February
Yep.
2021. And was it an easy shoot? Uh Time-wise, it was compact, and we had to get a
Yeah.
lot done. I think it was 18 shoot days or something like that. Um and so from a technical perspective, it was challenging, but it was so much fun. I mean, the crew, the cast, everyone involved were just really, really good people, and we had all made a decision to
Yeah.
fully commit to telling the story and spend some time in Binghamton together for a month. So it was actually so much fun. And after 2020 and a long stint of not really knowing if what was going to happen, if we were going to even be able to make movies, after the pandemic, after the really sort of intensive part of the pandemic, I should
Yeah.
say. I felt so grateful and blessed to be able to work as an actor, first of all,
Mm.
and also to work on a project that was so rich and really fun. So it was a challenge, but it was really kind of just a great time.
Well, you say it was a great time and fun, but during that 18-day shoot or beyond, did you experience any paranormal activity? Was there any divine intervention that came home with you?
Mm, well, luckily, no. I didn't,
Oh,
I
that's
didn't,
good.
I didn't experience, I mean, knock on wood, I hope there's nothing, that on me, no demonic presences, but no, it was just about the work. So, you turn up and you do what you're supposed to do that day, and then you go home and eat a snack and try to forget about it.
Good to hear. No forces on your shoulder or anything. That's nice to hear.
No, and I'm very, I feel like I'm a very spiritually protected person. So
Okay.
you can play and then you can go home and just have your normal life.
Okay. Did you think we'll sing that was 2019 you were saying, like, did you think here you'd be 4 years later talking about the same movie? Did you think it would have an impact like that? And it's just about to be released in Australia as well.
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was a really special script. And
Of
I
course, you
had
were
a lot of
saying, yeah.
yeah, and I had a lot of faith in Andy. And as we were working on it, you know, when things are going right and you have the right team assembled and you're supported, you just have this feeling like what we're doing is meaningful. It didn't just feel like a job or something like that. It felt like a
Good.
real artistic sort of endeavor that we were all embarking on, and there were parts of it that could be expected and parts of it that were unexpected. But I'm so moved by the response that the movie has gotten, and the fact that it touches people and that it feels like it's a place to a safe place to kind of work on or work through feelings about that time that affected us all so profoundly.
Mm,
And I have a feeling that this is the type of film that's going to only get better with age, and not only because of the narrative and the horror aspect, but also because of how it sensitively deals with that time of the pandemic. And I think people are going to be more open to it as time goes on and we kind of get away from the immediate shock of what that time was. So I'm not surprised that we're talking about it.
yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that because I have a lot of movies that come my way and come and go, but some stick with me. And I know, having spoken to Andy, having seen the movie a couple of times, now speaking to you, it certainly, I wouldn't be doing all this if I didn't believe in the movie. So yeah,
Thank you so much.
it's well done. I hope you get more lead roles in any genre. Actually, Gabby, you've opened my eyes to your talent. So
Thank
keep it
you. That's
keep up
so
the.
kind. I mean, your lips to God's ears. I would like to continue to work.
That's good. Now, Monique walks around a lot with a torch. Did you
Mhm.
did you have your own torch? Were there any torch? Like, how many torches were used in the film? It would seem like you always had a torch.
Well, I did not. That was not my personal one. I think they got like a
Okay.
really huge heavy duty one. I don't own a flashlight like that, or a torch. But yeah, like actually, I think the specific sequence you're referring to was insane. So one of the cool things about this film was that I guess Andy and the production team had made some deals with the city of Binghamton, and we had access to these incredible locations, one of which
Mm.
was an abandoned opera theater
Oh,
that was across from our sort of home base, which was the Firehouse Theater in Binghamton. And it was I mean, our art department was incredible and did such an incredible job, like making Mavis's apartment and set decorating our locations and stuff like that. But that space was insane. It was
Yep.
so yeah, I had that torch and I was very happy to have it because it was a very, very creepy place.
Yeah, it seemed like you had it in more scenes of the movie, but I think that particular scene was so powerful. I'm delusioned because Monique only had it in that scene. You're right, but
Mhm.
it was
Yeah.
very effective. Speaking of opera houses, Sydney, where I was born, has a beautiful one. It never
Yeah.
gets old when I see it, and I walk around it quite often. Have you ever been down under? Have you ever visited Australia?
Oh, no, I never have, and I would absolutely love to. I've always wanted to. It's on my, like, bucket list of travel. Um, I'd love to be able to, like, come to a project in Australia, and,
Mm,
I've met lots of Australian folks, like, I live in New York, and
yeah.
there's a really strong Australian community in New York, and, yeah, I would absolutely love to come visit and just check it out, you know? I
Um,
grew up watching nature documentaries, like, religiously, and as you know, many of them take place in Australia, so,
oh yeah.
I'd love to be able to come down.
We have a lot of creatures down here, very dangerous creatures,
Mhm.
large and small, but you know, you'll survive, trust me. So don't let that scare you off.
I mean, if I could survive a demon, I think I can survive, a few spiders.
Exactly. Do you find a big difference between the community of stage actors that you've worked with and film, television actors, or are they combining more these days? What do you think? Because it used to be sort of they were separate.
I think it's definitely shifting.
Mm,
It's a pretty existential question because I think, I was just speaking to a fellow actor the other day. I think we're in an interesting moment in the theater where the theater um, it is stuck between the theater going public, which have certain tastes,
right.
and the cultural demands of our current moment and what stories want to be told and need to be told. So I really I think a lot of my favorite stage actors work just as much, if not more, in TV and film. One, because that's the way you can make a living as an actor, because theater typically it does not pay enough to really like have a very comfortable life. Um, but
Okay.
I think like what I've noticed is, as I've worked more is that um, good actors are good actors, and it doesn't, it's kind
So
of
true.
the medium doesn't change the approach. It's just about commitment to the story and being available emotionally and vulnerable. So there's definitely less crossover, and especially in New York. I mean, Netflix just set built a bunch of stages in my neighborhood. So Netflix, if you're watching, please cast me. I would love to walk to work. Um, but yeah, so there's a lot more crossover, I think, nowadays.
Netflix have a lot of productions all around the world that are just ongoing. So I'm sure you'll get picked up somewhere along the line, Gabby. You have to. There's so many streaming services and content.
That's true. That's true.
Okay, Emily Davis,
Mhm.
your co-star who played Mavis in The Harbinger. Um, you have a great chemistry and connection in that, albeit a little bit, offbeat and
Mhm.
freaky, obvious reasons. How was it working with her? And there are any other actors in the cast you'd like to point out?
Oh, absolutely. So, for one, I have Emily to thank for even having this job. So
Really?
yes, so as I kind of hinted at before, um, the original actor who I don't know who they are, but who was supposed to play Monique, couldn't do the job. They decided not to for personal reasons, and so Andy and the team were looking for someone to step in, and I suppose Emily had seen me in a play in New York and put my name in the mix for potential replacements. So thank you so much,
Fantastic.
Emily. But Emily is truly one of the best actors I have ever worked with in my career thus
The big
far.
call.
She she is she is uh just amazing. There's one moment in the film where she's recounting um her experience with the Harbinger.
Mm.
And I remember when we were filming that sequence, she was so good that I had to remind myself to like stay in the scene because I became a spectator in that moment. I was just like, wow, this is so good. She's such a good actor. Like, I can't like, and then I was like, wait, come on, you're Monique, you're Monique.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
she's just fantastic. But the entire cast is really strong. Anthony Thomas, who plays my father,
yep,
is absolutely incredible and such a hilarious, lovely man. Miles Walker, who plays my little brother, is absolutely fantastic. Laura Heisler Mitten, who is Andy's wife,
yes,
but also plays the demonologist in the film. Just such a cool woman, and her take on that character is just pitch perfect. But please forgive me for not mentioning every single person in the
of
film
course, yeah, no.
because everyone I worked with was just stellar and it was really easygoing.
I think it was a tight knit, obviously, cast and crew, and it all translates onto screen.
Mm.
How important, and I think I already know the answer to this, how important are indie films in the scheme of things? To me, they're just so, I love supporting indie projects because alongside the blockbusters, we need other things. And movies like this really set a path because they are so well made. You're obviously a big fan of indie films, and you'd like
Oh
to see
yeah.
them continue, not get wiped out.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, a lot of my favorite films are indies. I think that obviously having studio support or having a really large budget
Mm,
allows you to do certain things that are cost prohibitive in the
mm,
smaller indie space, but I feel like filmmakers like Andy, who are telling stories that are really deep and thoughtful and kind of left of center. Like that's what makes me excited as an actor. So
yeah.
I hope to continue to work in indie films and mostly let me think. All of the features that I've done have been indies and I just love it. It's like you're scrappy, you have to get it done, but you're also committed to telling stories that need to be told. And I think that's one cool thing about indies is that it's so
Yeah,
hard to make a film. It's so, especially when you don't have huge budgets behind you. And so when you go to really do the thing, like there's a level of commitment and camaraderie and sort of like we're going to get this done that I really
yes,
find very inspiring and I really enjoy. So yeah, indie films forever.
exactly. Indie films forever. That needs to be on a placard, right?
Yeah.
Definitely. What about, have you ever considered, I know you've dabbled in a bit of writing as far as I know, but have you ever considered writing a little bit more or directing yourself, maybe producing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I am a writer and a filmmaker, so I've made 2 shorts that I wrote and produced and acted
Okay.
in a small role, but it's really important to me going forward to make more of my own work. I'm really inspired by Andy, honestly.
That's good praise.
Yeah, I've written a short that I'm trying to get funding for right now, and it's kind of a little bit horror adjacent. It's more of a psychological thriller,
Yeah.
but I think like as an actor, especially as an actor of color, you realize that I had a realization that I didn't want to wait around for my dream role to come along. I was like, you know what? If I can if I can write a script that's just good enough for other people to understand the vision and then
Yeah.
filmmaking is such a collaborative medium and you can bring in people who are way more talented than you to help bring it to life.
Yeah.
I was like, that's how I can have agency in my acting career and actually be able to tell the stories I'm excited to tell, is to really just get in the muck and do it myself. So I certainly want to do more of that going forward.
You've inspired me to ask you something. Have you ever had any hurdles along the way because of your heritage? I mean, there's
Mm.
just so much change with Me Too and Time's Up and so forth, but inclusion, have you ever found that you might not have got a job because of your heritage, or has it helped rather than hindered?
I mean, I think as a person, like, I love who I am and I love my heritage. So
Of
I
course,
feel
yeah.
yeah, you know what I mean? Like, so I
Yeah,
feel helped in that I love that I get to live in the Black American experience because it's a rich and beautiful experience. But that comes with certain, levels of oppression. But what I will say is that um I am very grateful to the actresses, some of whom I have the pleasure of calling friends, especially Black actresses who've come before me and who have paved the way for performers like me. And I feel like I feel like there's a lot more access now than there ever has been. And I just hope that
good.
this continues, that people recognize that the universal experience is not one that has to be told by a person who looks a certain way, that we can all, as a young person, some of my favorite films had people, no Black people in them, or people that even, looked
Sure.
like me or had my experience, and I was able to identify with them and find parts of myself. And I think that people are realizing that experience is something we all have access to. And so um yeah, I feel really there's a lot of work to do still, but I
Sure.
feel like there's never been a better time for me to be doing this job than right now.
Oh, I'm so glad. I mean, at the time of recording this, The Little Mermaid is about to come out. And Halle Bailey, who's was recently in Australia with Rob Marshall, the director, Melissa McCarthy was here in Sydney. Hallie was talking about how, well, not directly, but I know for a fact how she got online just persecuted and just horrible comments because of her skin color playing an iconic character. I mean, who cares? If the character's amazing and you're a good actor, anyone can play whatever character it happens to be. So I just hope it all gets much better for all of us, I guess.
Absolutely, and I'm so grateful, like, let's just take a moment to acknowledge her strength as such a young person in the
Yes.
public eye, to carry that abuse
That's
with
the word. I didn't want to
grace.
say it, but yeah.
Yeah, but it is what it is. And here's the thing that's so funny to me. It's like, who like sorry, a mermaid? Like like a mermaid? Like are we really gonna like have discussions about what race a mermaid is? I
Tell
think
me
that
about
there's
it.
sometimes it's ridiculous. It's like like uh, uh I don't know. It just seems like a crisis of imagination, like let's
Yeah.
just open our imaginations and try to like not have these really weird arbitrary like social
Yeah,
ideas hemming in what the stories our imaginations can tell.
exactly. Yeah. Makes me laugh and I just don't want to laugh, but some of it's so ridiculous.
No, it's ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
A couple more before we wrap up. Are you musically inclined? Can you sing, dance? Is that something you're a fan of, musicals in general?
I love musicals. I have, being in New York, I know a lot of triple threats, so I'm not gonna try to step in that ring because,
Sure.
like, but I can sing a little bit. I studied dance for a really long time as a kid, so I can pick up some choreo. And
Nice.
I would absolutely love to be able to be in a project that allowed me to foster those skills a little more deeply. I think it would be a lot of fun.
Yep.
So yeah. But I love music. I'm a huge fan of music for sure.
Good. Yeah, same. So am I. I love soundtracks to movies. That's something I always take big notice of when I'm, well, obviously all things facets of a movie, but I love music as well. So
We got
it's
to shout
important
out
to me.
Andy Mitten, who scored the film in addition to
He
writing,
did.
directing, and editing it. So
Yeah, he certainly did. What does Gabby Beans do outside of acting and performing? How do you relax and chill?
Well, I really love to read.
Good to hear.
I'm a really, really avid reader. So I actually picked up a bunch of books while I was here to read, like in the off time on set during
Yep.
the project I just wrapped. And then I roller skate. So I really
Cool.
love There's this thing called jam skating, and it's really popular in New York, and it's like you're like kind of dancing as you're roller skating. I've only been doing it for a couple years, so I'm still very much a beginner, but I absolutely love it. It's so much fun, and the community is just like perfect. They're
Right.
amazing people. And I love working out. I'm a meditator, so I
Okay.
like to try to drop in, get silent as much as I can. And I love nature, so I like to spend as much time outdoors as I can.
Well, plenty of nature in Australia. Come on, come on
Wow,
down.
do you work with the tourism board? Like, what's
No,
going
no,
on? You don't have to sell me. No, I'm joking.
no. Of course, no. I just I'm trying to get you down here for a project, and then you can
Mhm.
relax on the side, right?
Once again, your lips to God's ears.
Do you remember your first job? With your SAG card. What was it? Was it a
Oh
television
yes.
ad or what was it?
Oh yes. Oh yes. So, well, the way SAG works is you're allowed to work 3 jobs before you have to join the union. But my
Mm,
first job that made me SAG eligible, I have to thank Brett Goldstein, who's a really wonderful casting director in New York. It was I actually booked my first TV audition that I had after acting school, and it was for this show called I Love You, But I Lied. And
okay.
it's a really interesting show because it is all dramatic improv. So I
Wow.
played a nurse who was falsely accused. Well, spoiler alert. Well, anyway, I ruined it,
That's
but
all right.
but I who was falsely accused of switching babies at birth. And so
Oh,
she thinks that she's switched these babies, and then she gets to go around to the families of the babies and be like, I switched your babies at birth. So that was a really fun experience. I had no idea what I was doing. I had never been on TV before, and I was like the lead of the episode. I was completely like
wow. Cool.
nervous, but it was a good time, and the cast was really lovely. So that was a fun one.
Well, we can spoil that. We haven't spoiled the Harbinger, so
That's true.
we're
That's true. And
we're
that
all
was
right.
years ago. If you haven't seen I Love You, But I Lied, what are you doing?
Well, you've just educated me. I didn't even know it existed, so thank you. Okay, so before we wrap up your view on why people should watch your movie, tell me about this new project. I actually thought you were in New York, but of course you're in LA with the time difference that we've worked out. A project, you're allowed to talk about it and give me an idea of what to look forward to?
I am allowed to talk to it. I didn't sign any NDAs, so here we go. So I'm really excited about it. It's a Apple TV mini series called Presumed Innocent,
Whoa,
and it's based off of a novel and then a movie from the 80s with the same
Harrison Ford.
title. Yeah, exactly. And so in our version, Jake Gyllenhaal is playing the Harrison Ford character, and it's a legal drama. It's a crime story. It's a psychological thriller, and I play a lawyer on Jake Gyllenhaal's defense team. So that just
Okay.
wrapped yesterday, and the actors in it are crazy. Like I was pinching myself every day. Like Bill Camp is in that film, is in the project. Peter Sarsgaard, Otifa Bengley,
Whoa,
Ruth
very good.
Nega, Renate Reinseve, from I'm sure I'm mispronouncing her name, but she was in The Worst Person in the World. But the cast is just crazy, and I am so honored to have been part of it, and I can't wait to see it.
Are you a shady lawyer or you're legit?
Oh, I am completely above the board. I am by the book, very, very virtuous lawyer.
Very
So
good.
yeah.
Well, I mean, that must have been an amazing set. Jake alone has so much aura in every role, and he's fantastic. So I look forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a fan of his my whole life. I mean, Donnie Darko is one of the films that got me into liking films. And
That's
throughout his
amazing.
career, he's done performances that have really affected me. So being able to watch him work in person was
Mm.
incredible. It was really cool.
And on a side note, Jake was in Australia promoting a movie, Love and
Mhm,
Other Drugs was the
mhm,
movie.
mhm.
And he signed, I interviewed him and he signed my picture of Donnie Darko, like the cover of my DVD back
Oh,
then.
that's so cool. I should have
So
done that. darn, I was just around that guy for 2 months. I should have gotten him to sign something, but oh well.
Yeah, like it was, I didn't want to ask, but the time was right, and he was very good in the interview, and he was very happy that I loved the movie. So yeah, that's something I treasure, that's for sure. And you got to work with him, so that's even
Amazing.
better.
Yeah, I feel really, really lucky about that.
There's a lot of the movies being turned into television shows lately. The
Hmm.
Full Monty is coming, Fatal Attraction,
Hmm.
Dead Ringers is on at the moment. So
Yes.
good luck. I hope it's a success.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really cool because it's kind of like you get to make an 8-hour movie. So it's having watched the original film, it's cool to see how the writers and showrunners are able to really expand upon and give more twists and turns
Yeah,
with that larger runtime. So I'm excited to see how it turns out for sure.
agreed. Yeah. Now, finally, The Harbinger is about to be released in Australia. In your own words, why should people watch it? We'll stay spoiler free because we have so far, but I enjoyed it a lot. I'm not just saying it. I've seen it a couple of times. So why should
Thank
people
you.
choose to watch it?
I think that the thing um that is most effective about the Harbinger is that it is a contemplation of so many themes, feelings, and experiences that we've all had in the past 3 years. And horror is a specifically, amazing genre to deal with
Yeah.
uh, these feelings, the feelings of loss, of grief, of not knowing whether or not you will, if being like feeling isolation and not knowing if being the cure to that isolation, which is being in community with others, is a thing that will bring you through a dark period or if it'll pull you deeper.
Yeah.
And I think that it's a really subtle and creepy and heartbreaking a film, and my fellow actors in the film are all really, really fantastic. Um and I think it's if you're feeling like in a place to emotionally engage with some of these darker themes that we've been going through as a society, as a global society, I think
Mm.
you'll find value in this film, and I very much am proud to be a part of it.
Andy's a good director, and it has practical effects too, which is a
Yes.
bonus.
Yes. Oh yeah, we love a practical effect.
You didn't see visions of that bird-like creature around when you were not filming. I hope not in the
Well, I
street.
mean, we did a lot of night shoots, so
Yeah, yeah.
sleep deprivation definitely did come into play, but mostly I was just like, like when you see something in the corner of your eye and you're like, what? And it was like, it was time for coffee. So
Okay.
coffee. So if anyone is like feeling like they have some sort of entity around, just drink a cup of coffee, wake up, you'll be fine.
Well, speaking of coffee, for people who don't know, it is now 2:44 my time. So
You're a
we might want
champion,
to.
Shane.
No, you're welcome. I'll press stop. There we go.